My mom, by the way, is a loving, no-nonsense, hardworking Midwestern mom who says what she means. You know what the difference between that kind of mom and a terrorist is? You can negotiate with a terrorist.
Deadline for her execution has passed.
With us now to help break down the investigation, retired FBI Special Agent Hostage Negotiator Christopher
He is a
Voss.
former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator.
Everything in life is negotiation. Life is a negotiation. The human nature rules that apply to all people. It doesn't matter if you're a terrorist or a businessman. I'm Chris Voss, and this is my masterclass.
Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Lewis Peahy. Today what we're going to be talking about is the Chris Voss Teaches the Art of Negotiation Masterclass. We're going to answer, is it worth it for you? We're going to take you into the actual class itself as though you've just invested in it. We're going to try and figure out, is it worth it for you from a pricing perspective, whether you're a professional in the workplace, whether you're a parent and you're trying to negotiate with your children, or if you're just interested in the world of utilizing the English language in order to get exactly what you want, but also benefit the other side as well and making them see certain things, whether that's mirroring, whether that's labeling and things like that. Very, very powerful. And as always, guys, I have a link in the description which you can get the masterclass for an unknown amount. They're changing the landing page, aka this page, and they're also changing the price almost on a daily or monthly basis. They're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and that makes sense. So this is the landing page for today. However, when you click my link in the description, you'll probably see a different landing page with a different price. So let me know if, one, the landing page is different, and also let me know if the price is different for you. There are two types of bundles that they have. They have the class, which you can just purchase outright. Now, of course, this price is only for those that are in Australia. It could be completely different in America. So let me know what you see in Canada, Europe, wherever you are. Let me know the price you see. But there is a difference between a single class and the all access masterclass. The single class gives you access to the Chris Voss masterclass for life, and it's yours forever, which is fantastic. However, the all access masterclass gives you access to everything. So if you want to learn from Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you want to learn from Gordon Ramsay, which I have a link to on the top right of the screen right now, if you want to learn from Paul Krugman, which a lot of people don't really like that much, or Anna Wintour, and you want to learn how she runs Vogue magazine, or Howard Schultz, and you want to learn how Starbucks is run, I have all those on the top right as well, so you can have a look at them. Point is, all access gives you access to all of these people, which is pretty insane. Before I get into the class, I know a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between the Chris Voss masterclass and his book that he wrote, which a lot of people really love when it comes to negotiation? And I would have to argue the biggest difference is when you see the exercises and the mock negotiations, where you actually see him in the flesh doing all these things, you know, mastering delivery, bargaining, the value of saying no and what that means, and working with an actor to pull all this stuff off. And a few great examples of that is when you actually hear him talking to bank robbers, because they've obviously recorded these recordings, and you see him using the tools that he teaches in a real world environment and how he gets these bank robbers to come out utilizing these tools. Insanely powerful. Or whether you're a parent and you're trying to negotiate with your teen not to go out and party and do this crazy stuff, or even if you're a professional trying to get a salary increase, or you're trying to influence or help influence the decision of your company, he gives you the script and the tools to pull this off. He also teaches you how to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And then the big one at the end, which I think is the most powerful, which is a mock negotiation of you have 60 seconds or she dies, which is an insanely interesting way to look at the world of negotiation. So these are some of the things that we're going to cover once we log into the masterclass and show you exactly how it works. Otherwise, let's jump into an overview of masterclass right now. So generally the way masterclass works is pretty simple. Of course, there are masterclass reviews, which is on Trustpilot. There are 305 reviews on this particular masterclass already with a great score, fantastic score. You see a lot of 5 stars, which is good, which means it's credible. And then of course, you know, endless education. There are class workbooks. There are all these things that enable you as you go along with this. It's anytime, anywhere. So you can actually watch it on your smart TV. It's my replacement for Netflix, by the way. I don't do Netflix anymore. Phones, laptops, tablets, you know, this is really good when you're on your way to work, and it's interesting to actually like learn how to negotiate on your way to work to a potential negotiation. And then of course it's unlimited download, so you can just download it if you want to do that as well. However, either way, let's jump into the masterclass right now. So this is exactly what you see once you invest in the Chris Voss masterclass. Remember, this is an investment, and it can also be considered a professional investment. So if you want, go to your manager or even go to the owner of the company and say, hey, listen, I want to do this Chris Voss masterclass. Can the company pay for it? It's $140 or it's $90. Can you put it on the company card for me? I don't see why they wouldn't do that. Just make sure you're coming back to this video and using my link in the description to give me some love and then smashing that like button. But otherwise, so let's jump into the interface so you're really comfortable. Now, and we'll go from the top all the way to the bottom. Now go and grab a coffee, pause this video if you need to. It's going to be long. There are 18 lessons in this masterclass. And now we're going to go into the actual interface. So of course, so if you want to look up anything, for example, if you want to just type in business, you actually see the Bob Iger masterclass, which I have on the top right of your screen right now, which is the CEO of Disney, or Howard Schultz. The sky is quite literally not even the limit on that one. And of course, there are categories, which I mean, there are culinary arts, or you can look up music and entertainment, writing, business, politics, society. Very, very powerful stuff. I have links to these classes as well in the description. There is a community tab, which I want to make a distinction really quickly. There is the overarching masterclass community, but there is also the Chris Voss masterclass community down here. They're actually relatively different. On one hand, this community exposes you to the entire masterclass community where you can network, you can work with other people and level yourselves up, which is great. There are contests, which masterclass do quite often, and they're pretty cool, and you can win cool prizes and all these things. So they're really engaging like that. But of course, then there is the student highlights. And these are students that really take action and they do some really cool stuff, and then they present them to the entire masterclass community. So you're not just investing in education here. You're investing in a group of other people that are working together to improve themselves. And then of course, the community for Chris Voss's masterclass itself. These are people that have invested in the singular masterclass as well as those that have access to all access. I personally have all access because I think it's great. I love having access to every single masterclass and every new masterclass that's coming out in the future. I think it's awesome. Quick list, completely irrelevant. My classes, if you have all access, you have all the classes anyway, so you don't technically need that as well. I think they should just remove those two, to be honest, if that was me. Then of course you have your account, which of course you can look at your profile, you can browse trailers, and then of course gifting, which is really good around Christmas, Easter, middle of the year as well. Fantastic time because they generally do masterclass promotions, which I'll have a link to in the description below once they pop up. So that link will always be up to date for you. And then of course, if you want to just kick off and start straight away, you just press the big red button, start lesson. And then the class workbook, which is of course one of the most valuable things in my opinion. And here is the Chris Voss masterclass workbook. Now, I don't want to take you through every single page on this because I want to be respectful for those that actually invest in this masterclass. However, this is the workbook. I'm going to show you the first page only. This definitely has this theme of like an FBI agent, which of course he was, and it has that type of like, you know, investigation theme going on. And that is the first page. If you want to pause this video, go for it, pause it, and you can read it all yourself. By all means, I'll even zoom into it for a bit for you. There you go. But I'm not going to show you everything just because I want to be really respectful for those that invest in something like this. It's just simply not fair if I do that. Either way, that is the workbook, very high quality, and you can see the theme already. It's pretty good. And another really interesting nugget that Masterclass actually threw in was this is session 1. I think there could be a hint of another Masterclass coming out because this is session 1. There could be session 2s and 3s and 4s coming out. Otherwise, once they come out, I'm going to be making my reviews on them as well. So make sure you subscribe for that and you'll be notified when it does come out, and I got you back there. So now I want everyone to go grab a cup of coffee. We're about to start the overview of each course now. Now I've already done a complete overview of the masterclass and how it works. Now we're going to jump into exactly what each course goes over and then figure out, is it actually worth it for you? And as I'm doing this, you're going to actually figure out if is it worth it for you. And then I'm going to give you my recommendations at the end of the video. So let's jump into it right now. Of course, lesson 1 talks about tactical empathy. Now this is the central point of the entire masterclass, to be honest. So you meet your new instructor, former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator, Chris Voss. Chris Voss actually owns a company now called the Black Swan Group that teaches some of the best sales reps in the world. So he's former FBI and now he owns his own massive company, which is otherwise known as like the best sales coaching company on the planet right now. They teach the likes of Robert Herjavec, who's from Shark Tank, and all these massive companies. We're talking like the big companies, Deloitte, all of them. So while many believe that negotiation is a battle, Chris sees successful negotiation as a collaboration rooted in tactical empathy. So the way these courses are laid out is like this. You have the video. So in this case, the video lasts for 10 minutes. And then there is the class workbook. And I've actually just showed you the first page for this particular lesson. So you're welcome there. And then of course, the minor community area, which is of course the discussions. So you can actually see the first point here, whereby this person has just said, it is interesting that Chris makes a point of saying that we are all in negotiations on a daily basis, which is absolutely true. So you can see it's also an engaging community as well. But the big community is, of course, which what we already alluded to before, which is up the top. Then lesson 2 goes into mirroring. Now, mirroring is a very powerful technique that you can use on a daily basis to anyone you speak to, and it actually makes you a very likable person as a result of using it. Mirroring and labeling. So mirroring is one of the most simple yet effective techniques in any negotiator's repertoire. Through simple repetition, Chris demonstrates how you can gather vital information in a negotiation and put your counterpart at ease. So some of the topics in this lesson goes for 10 minutes. He talks about how to mirror and how to gather information as a result of that, mirroring to build rapport with others, how to mirror confrontational people, which is insanely powerful, how to use silence, which in my opinion is one of the most powerful sales tools and negotiating tools ever. Silence is golden in other words. And then of course, keep mirroring until you get exactly what you need. So very powerful stuff. So lesson 3 then talks about labeling. Now the next lesson after that, lesson 4, is really cool because you see both of these things in action. So labeling is you learn how to actually use labels, you learn what they actually are and how they benefit everything in the way you communicate. And professionals do this all the time, especially managers. So labeling is very powerful. So they are basically verbal observations that don't sound like judgments, and they exist to neutralize negative emotions in a negotiation or reinforce positive ones to create a better deal or an ideal situation for you. So some of the topics include how to label, how not to label, which is critical. There's a massive difference, and if you stuff up labeling, you will stuff up the conversation, aka the negotiation that is taking place. Label more than once, reinforcing positive emotions within the labels themselves, and then how to combine lesson 2 and 3 together, aka how to combine mirroring and labeling together, which is really powerful. Now, this is where the value of the masterclass really shines, and that separates itself from the book. The book is all about smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Lesson 4 is all about utilizing mirroring and labeling together in tandem, and he does it with an actual actor. And you're honestly never going to get this type of behavior from a book, to be completely honest, and that's where the real value of this masterclass is. It's in these case studies and exercises where you actually hear him in action in the real world doing it with someone. So of course, lesson 4 is an exercise of both labeling and mirroring together. Then lesson 5 is all about delivery. So the way you say something in a negotiation is just as important as the words you choose. Chris explores how you can use tone of voice, inflection to your advantage, and share his top tips for online communication. Now, let me be very clear with everyone right now. The way this guy talks, he talks about manipulating mirror neurons. He talks about ditching the assertive voice, whereby you have those really alpha type behaviors where they just think they know it all and they keep talking and talking and talking, and they think they're a great salesperson, but in reality, they're actually really bad at what they do. And then he talks about how to utilize a playful voice, especially when you talk about like a price. So a great example he uses is if your company sells something at $30,000 a year, you don't say, well, it's $30,000 a year. You say it in a playful tone. You say something to the effect of, well, it's just $30,000 a year. And that works. And I've used it before. So this course, lesson 5, has actually made me a return on investment as a result of me just knowing how to use that delivery really well. So that was really awesome. Then what's really, really powerful is, and I'm going to skip the analyst voice because that's boring, but what's really powerful is the late night DJ FM voice, where he lowers his tone. And this class, I had to take this class 3 times because he was showing you how to do a late night DJ FM voice or a late night FM DJ voice, because I fell asleep during these classes, as he was communicating and what the whole goal of the late night FM DJ voice is. So when you're in heavy stakes negotiation, communication with other people, and what's perfect about this is lesson 6, you actually hear him talk to 2 hostages. Then he uses the late night FM DJ voice to calm them down and relax and make them fall asleep. And what's really weird is the masterclass makes you fall asleep, which happened to me 3 times. And that's just really powerful. Then he talks about inflections and then digital communication as well. But either way, mastering delivery, powerful. If you fall asleep during this one, let me know, because I fell asleep and I've never fallen asleep before during like a masterclass, which shows how powerful this masterclass actually is. Then lesson 6, which is of course the case study. Again, very similar to the exercise in lesson 4. However, this is now real world environment. This is real world scenario whereby he talks to 2 men that are holding 3 people hostage in a real world Chase Bank in Manhattan in Brooklyn. You hear the way Chris Voss communicates to these guys and how he shares for the first time the tape recording of this phone call. And what's really cool about this is because he did this in 1993, so he was still relatively young. He was in his infancy. And what's really powerful is how he can reflect back on, he's like, oh, well, I actually made a mistake there and I should have done this better during the course. So you have Chris Voss in his prime, if you will, back in the day, talking to robbers, robbing a bank, and then now a much more refined Chris Voss criticizing victimizing his former self, whereby he was already a master at what he did. So that's why this class is so powerful. Now, what I've just realized now, which is really interesting to me, there are 15 comments in one of the most engaging videos in the whole masterclass. But if we look at lesson 5, the one I fell asleep in, there are 56 comments. So either like 80% of the people that watch lesson 5 fall asleep and they can't get to lesson 15 or something else is going on. So yeah, that's quite funny to see. Either way, let's go into lesson 7. Hopefully people have... No, they're still asleep. 15. There they go. They're starting to wake up now. Yeah, there we go. So they wake up at around 9. Either way. So lesson 7 is all about body language, utilizing it in your speech patterns. So how people behave and how they say things can be much more insightful in a negotiation than what they say. This lesson is about looking beyond the surface and distinguishing truth from fiction in terms of body language and reading it. A lot of people don't know how to do this, especially me. I never really took body language into account. Now I do when I have my communication with people. But he teaches you here the real foundation of body language and speech patterns and how to really spot deviations in the way they communicate. Watching from the sidelines and what that means, the 7:30-8:55 rule, and how to respond to a lie. Now, what's really cool about this is you're actually seeing in the comments now resonance from previous lessons. So as you can see, does the DJ voice work for women? Because it makes people sleepy and making them want to sleep. This community, read the comment here. Does the DJ Night FM voice work for women? So this community is relatively fun as well. I love it. I love it. So at this point in time, people are starting to wake up. There are now 23 comments in lesson 8. So lesson 8 is about creating an illusion of control. So who is more in control within a negotiation? The person who's talking or the person who's listening? So Chris lets you in on the secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation and explains how you can shift the power dynamic to your advantage almost every time. Even when you're talking to a complete like alpha type of guy that, you know, knows it all and everything, he teaches you how to really control that, which is really priceless. And some of the topics include how and what questions you should be asking, the questions to actually force empathy in other people to make them feel empathetic to you. A great question, for example, is, and he goes through a lot of them, but a great question to ask someone that feels in control and they're always powerful. You say, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, well, how do I move forward with this? That's very powerful to really ask, because then it makes them feel empathetic towards you and they try and come up with a solution for you. So how am I supposed to do that? Then use collaborative questions to shape their thinking, and he teaches you how to do that. Then he talks about how to avoid triggering reciprocity, and then of course asking legitimate questions that make sense. Lesson 9. Now we're halfway through the lesson plan, and again, this is very powerful for parents that otherwise don't really know how to negotiate with their kids. But negotiation, it isn't really a negotiation, it's more so how to converse and get exactly what you want from children of yours, especially when they're teens. So Chris plays the part of a father whose teenager daughter wants to spend the weekend with her boyfriend at his parents' vacation home. He doesn't trust the boyfriend, but Chris demonstrates techniques to get his daughter on his side. Very powerful, 10-minute in the flesh. You see how he works, how he functions in the real world. Insanely powerful. Highly recommend. One of my favorite ones by far. Then of course 10, the accusations audit. What does that even mean? So there are often a lot of feelings in the room when a negotiation starts. Chris teaches you how to use accusation audit as a means of identifying those feelings and turning negatives into positives. So framing it, what does it actually mean? Then how to frame it within the room itself, getting ahead of the negatives, being exhaustive and fearless, and how to actually practice things in a low stake environment. Then of course, lesson 11 is all about the value of saying no and how powerful it actually is. So most people think the most important word in negotiation is actually yes. In fact, the opposite is true in this case. Chris tells you why no can be a pivotal word that gets you to your desired outcome. So the danger of saying yes, the power of no, how to actually make someone say no to you, which is insanely powerful, because you actually want people to say no in certain situations because it gives them the illusion that they are powerful. But he goes into that with a lot more detail. He says use no to get an answer from someone, and then of course transitioning from no to how do we actually make this happen. And this is actually quite funny. This is a particularly handy tool with husbands. So this community is a bunch of everyone, and you know, they're engaged, they're fun, and obviously this class has just come out, so this community is definitely growing. Then 12, again, this is a mock negotiation. Now where he talks about is the hardest thing to reconcile in a negotiation is really opposite views. Chris shows you how to handle competing agendas without alienating the other side. So in this case, it isn't really a rival, this is more so a colleague that has different thoughts on where a company should go. He really gives you the tools to how to communicate with someone that is really on the opposite side of the spectrum. Even if it's as simple as where to allocate budget within a company, he goes through that and he teaches you how to do that, especially for professionals on that one. Then 13 is all about bending reality. A negotiation can succeed or fail depending on how you frame your case. Chris walks you through the subtle art of perspective and how to understand a counterpart's key emotional drivers in order to make a compelling case. So what he talks about here is use loss aversion to your benefit, appeal to their sense of fairness, because everyone actually wants to be fair, or a lot of people want to be fair, and it makes them feel otherwise bad. Responding to the F-bomb, and it's not what you think it is. So the F-bomb is very powerful, and how to respond to that. Deadlines are meaningless, and what that actually means. Responding to deadlines. So when somebody says, oh, I have a deadline, how do you respond to that? Because at the end of the day, deadlines don't really exist. And of course, making a last impression on them. Then lesson 14 is all about bargaining. Hard bargaining doesn't have to mean taking a sledgehammer approach at all. Chris teaches you how to bargain with skill, diplomacy, and of course, tactics. He goes through the Ackerman system, pivoting to non-monetary terms, providing a range and how to utilize that range. Ranging is very important when it comes to bargaining, and what does that actually mean? And then of course, anchor emotions, not dollars, and how that works as well. Very powerful tool. Lesson 15, one of the most important lessons for anyone that's trying to get a salary increase in their job, how to increase their salary, how to even approach your superior in order to do that. Chris demonstrates how to negotiate effectively for a pay increase. Then you learn why he doesn't focus the conversation on money. So in this case, it's really good because you firstly see the person trying to get a salary increase, just a standard person like you and me, and then you actually see how Chris does it. And that's where the real value is. And you can even see the comments. People are saying, you know, Chris is a genius. And I'm really curious to know how much money this single lesson has made other people just as a result of the approach Chris takes. Lesson 16 is all about black swans. Remember, he called his company the Black Swan Company. Black swans are game-changing pieces of information that you don't know when entering a negotiation. Chris walks you through an FBI case where uncovering a black swan led to a breakthrough. So black swans in business, obviously black swans in the FBI and how that relates to business, opening yourself to the unknown, and of course, a case study that is the tractor man. And then lesson 17, you see him in the flesh doing this. An armed bank robber is barricaded in a bank with one female hostage. He wants a car in 60 seconds, or that hostage actually, he takes care of her. So you watch Chris in his masterclass deal with this tense, high stakes negotiation where one wrong move can lead to a very bad outcome. So this is a mock negotiation where it's hyper intense. You need to make a decision. You have 60 seconds to do it and how to pull that off. But the point of this lesson is how this happens in certain negotiations where time is limited and how to think, how to maneuver your way around it in the conversation. Very powerful, especially with heated battles. And you can even see one of the comments. This is an excellent masterclass. I truly enjoyed it all the way through and learned a lot. I ended up listening multiple times to each segment to capture all that, right? So it's true. I had to take this masterclass 3 times because it's that good. And each time I picked up something different that I actually utilize in my utility bill, if you will. Highly recommend it. And absolutely, I hope by now you can actually see if you're a professional, if you're a parent, if you're actively talking to people a lot, even if you're not really great at making arguments or you're more introverted and you're more meek, this is very powerful for someone like you. And because that was me, I'm definitely more of a meek type of individual, more reserved in my thoughts, but the Chris Voss Masterclass teaches you the tools in order how to really pull that off. So, and then of course, the power of negotiation. Chris's motivation for teaching negotiation is deeply personal. Discover why Chris Voss believes in this masterclass. He believes why this is a powerful tool that can transform your life. And then this is a very quick lesson. It only goes for 3 minutes, but you can already see the comments. Amazing course, hands down the best I've watched on this platform so far. And to be honest, buddy, I have to actually agree with you. Is it better than the Gordon Ramsay Masterclass? Of course they're different. It's like apples and oranges, but by far, this is the most valuable masterclass I have ever taken, coupled with the resources. It is absolutely a beast. And that is the Chris Voss Masterclass review in a nutshell. Of course, I have a link in the description, which you should take advantage of. Let me know the price you see when you click the link below. I have no idea what it is when it comes to your region. So it's different. It could be cheaper. It could be more expensive. There could be a deal. I don't know what's going on. on. But either way, let me know what happens in your case. You're welcome there. I got your back. Is it worth it for you? Absolutely. If you are anyone that has constant communication with other humans, then absolutely a 100%. If you only want to get this class, what I would actually recommend in this case is, of course, you can get the all access masterclass, which gives you access to everything. But if you only want this, I would actually recommend the single class, which I think in America is $90, not $140. So it really depends on your region. I don't know how much it's going to be for you. Point is, if you just want this masterclass and you want the art of negotiation for a lifetime and you want access to this community, which you can already see are quite fun and cool and collected, this is definitely a masterclass you want to have a look at and invest in 100%. So 100%, I recommend it to everyone, whether you're, 18 years old and you're just starting off in the world of, business and you're getting into your career. Very powerful to have at a young age and know this stuff and utilize it in a good way to benefit yourself and other people around you. But also, even if you're a veteran and you want to learn and see examples of this guy, do it in the flesh. Very powerful stuff. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to smash that like button. I have a link in the description. Make sure to take advantage of that. If you really like this video, give it a subscription. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Lewis P. out.